welcome. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, Amit. Good morning, Kevin.
Morning, Jalf. Morning, Amit.
Morning, how are you guys?
Yes, good, good.
Going good? Yeah.
Welcome, our viewers. Welcome to Show Business without Amar away for us for another week.
Enjoying himself in some sun, I hope.
Yeah.
I don't think we're missing out on the sun, so that's fine.
Well, it's sunny. Is it sunny where you are today? Because it's
Yes,
the
it is
sun shining on the quayside.
It's quite
here as
cold though,
well.
it's frosty
Yeah,
outside.
cold, but the sun is out, which is a nice thing.
So how's your week been? Jeff, let's start with you. How's your week been?
Just trying to think. The weeks fly so quickly. It's already Friday, and I'm vividly trying to think what I was doing on Monday. What I did do is I went to Anfield on Wednesday. To the match. Amar actually kindly gave us a couple of tickets, so went to Anfield for the first time. Honestly, as much as I love football, and I've been to a few away matches this season. I went to Old Trafford when we won, historic one. I went to the Emirates in the Carabao Cup, another great victory. Do you know what, Amit and Kevin? When you leave a match and you lose, it's like it's like a mountain to climb to come back home. You feel so dejected, and then you have to drive 200 miles to come all the way back to Newcastle. And by the time you leave the stadium, it was at 8:15 kickoff. Match didn't finish until 10:15. By the time you clap the boys off the pitch and you get out the stadium, and then you try to get into the car park and leave the car park and leave that traffic, and you haven't left the grounds of the stadium for at least another hour or so. And then obviously when you're on the road back, it's really, really busy because you have lots of people that are leaving the match. By the time you get away from match traffic and get onto the motorway, you know, you're talking an hour and a half. By the time you get home, it's like 3 in the morning. And then you've got your commitments the next morning and you're just tired. And then I think to myself, that's why you have to take your hat off to those away fans that have been doing that for all of their life. The dedication that's involved for football fans going away at matches, it should never be underestimated. It's
It's all about it, it's that passion, isn't it? It's that
yeah,
dedication, and that's why we in the northeast at Newcastle have got the. We've always been known for having the best supporters. Even yes, now, but even seasons ago when we weren't doing so well or whatever, we still had an amazing supporter base. Like my dad used to go to the match. He used to go to every match, regardless.
yeah. I mean, last week was a big week because on Saturday we had a match against Nottingham Forest, and it was a 4-3 victory. And we had all of the chairman,
Yep.
Al Ramayun. They were all here. There was a massive PIF kind of group that came, and I had them in actually one of the restaurants on the Sunday, and they were getting ready for the meeting at Matfin Hall on the Monday. So I think there was about 25 PIF members that came along. So it was a very serious meeting, obviously headed by the chairman himself. And I think what's going to happen, I mean, outcome of that meeting, it's going to change the city because ultimately, and whilst they haven't come out and made any announcements, I think all the talk is about a brand new stadium coming into St James's Park, right next to it, on Castle Leazes. And I think if you think about that as an investment, you're talking about maybe they're saying about 1.6 billion pounds, and they're probably going to have hotels and other. It's not just going to be a stadium. It's going to be. I think we talked about this last week, didn't we? We don't want to spend too much time again on this week, but the benefits to the city, it's going to be absolutely enormous, and it's going to put Newcastle on the worldwide map. So those meetings are happening right now. Even when and if you imagine, if there's 25 of them come from Saudi, and then they'll have their entourage with them, their assistants and A, B, C, and D, and there'll be other people that are coming from London to meet them. There would be probably all the other business people. So I would have thought Matt Van Hall may have had 50 people there. So even something like that, the benefit to the local economy, the businesses, and then if that's just ongoing and that gains gravitas, and more people have to come, and so it's something that not all of the cities around the country can benefit from an amazing football club, and we're so fortunate that we are one of them, and the economic value and the world kind of coverage that we have. It can only be good for Newcastle. Something that we should all understand and embrace.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
you brought up the whole away fans thing, and I just remembered that 2 weeks from now you're going to be in Wembley along with Amar,
Yeah,
and so are you excited about that? How does that feel?
of course. I think there is excitement, but if I'm got the same emotions as all the other fans, I'm excited, but I'm not euphoric. I don't want to be euphoric. I don't want to just jump up and down because we're going into a final. I want to take that in my stride, and I want that to be something that we want to get used to. But critically, on the pitch, there's a saying, which is by hook or by crook, right? Honestly, by hook or by crook, we must win that trophy and bring it back to the city. Because if that happens, again, mark my words, you're going to see the whole city is going to change forever, and there's going to be no turning back. And what that's going to do to the city, you'll only know after that, because again, we become internationally recognized, and with Saudi and what their plans are for sport, and the chairmans came out and said that they make some strategic decisions internationally, and one of their strategic decisions was to get involved in sports. So PIF, they're the ones that involved in golf, and they've got that new golf tournament, haven't they? Live, LIV, which has just rattled the golfing world, because it's a bit like when 2020 started in cricket, and those old farts that were just into Test cricket, and they felt that there was nothing else beyond Test cricket, and that's the be all and end all of cricket, and anything beyond Test cricket was just a fantasy, or it's not real cricket. I mean, you can remember all of that era where there was that hoo-ha about it, and I'm presuming it was the Indian Super League, was it, that started these 2020 tournaments, and it changed the whole dynamic of cricket. And someone sat there making that decision, and has got a vision about that particular game in a completely different dynamic to what was the status quo, changed it for the better. And there's now 2020 is the most exciting part of exciting cricket that you've seen, right? Or the 1 day series or whatever, 1 day match, as opposed to the test, which is right in the back burner. So similarly, I think they're doing that with golf. So they've made a strategic decision to tackle sports around the world, and we're so fortunate that they picked our city as a part of that. So yeah, I think going to the cup final, hopefully, there should be many more of those to come on a more regular basis. We don't want to think too hard. We've got another match this Sunday against Brighton. That's in the last 16. If we beat Brighton, it's at home, and we're probably favourites. We get into the last 8. A lot of the big teams have already been knocked out. There's only Man City and Man United that's left out of the big teams. Liverpool have gone, Arsenal have gone. So there's a lot of big teams not there. Tottenham are not, they're knocked out. Liverpool are knocked out. So we might be dreaming, but there's a possibility that we could do really well in that tournament as well. So yeah, it's going to be a great day out, great for the city. So let's just hope we can bring back the cup.
No, definitely. I'm excited. I've been a big Isaac fan all throughout, and he's been playing excellent this season. Form's extremely good. Gordon as well. Hoping there's more assists coming in. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm just like you said, I don't want to be overly excited. I just want to be realistic. I just want to see how things go. But it's a big deal that we've been doing so well. In fact, I was just going through some stats for December. Isaac was one of the most highest goal scoring players all across the season for that given point of time. So it's
Yeah,
fun
I
for us. Yeah.
he's an exceptionally talented player, you know. You know, when he wasn't playing on this Wednesday against Liverpool, sorry, and we're just not the same team without him. Because, you know, his pace is frightening. I mean, him and Anthony Gordon, when you see them live, you know, Anthony Gordon's like a greyhound.
Yeah.
It's just, they're so fast. You see them on the other side of the pitch, and the next thing you know, within seconds, they're so far away from where they began that kind of, you know, sprint. So they're so fast, but he's got so skillful. He's a very unique player, very, very unique player. So really, there's that, and there's, you know, there's the importance of finishing top 4 or 5, getting into the Champions League, and that's where all the elite players want to play. If we can do that, that means that we're attracting some of the world's best players for next season. And again, if you think about the city, and if you think about the profile of players, and you know, a player doesn't come by himself. They come with, if you imagine, like for example, Joe Willock, his mother, his father, the whole extended family base. They have a home where they come to, whether they're not, if they're not living with him regularly, they're visiting him on a very, very regular basis, because that's his support network. If you think about it, if you're a world talent, obviously your whole family move there, change their life for you. So
Yeah.
they are your support network. And then you've got all the agents, and you've got the whole entourage, and then you've got your friends, and you know, and money is no object. If you're earning a couple £100,000 a week to bring all of your family and friends on a regular basis to the city, it's an influx of people with a particular level of spend in the city, and A, B, C, and D. So I just look at it from the benefit to the city as the club grows.
Kevin, you're not from here. Is Newcastle your now adopted team?
Yeah, I mean, I go where home is. No, but I've been following Newcastle for quite some time now. In fact,
Did you say you go where home is? So if you move to Manchester, you become a Manchester supporter.
no, I was just joking. I've been following Newcastle for quite some time. In fact, I met almost I would say almost at a legendary level. There, we had a player called Papis Sissi. Yeah, he's a Senegal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I met Sissi last year, spent a bit of time for him, and surprisingly, he had a house in Ponteland,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
only after speaking to him I got to know. Met the others as well, met Demba and all those people. So
That
I,
in Dubai or
that was in Manchester. He's got his own foundation that he has a ball almost, I think, every 6 months. So I met him there with the Muslim Aid and the Hope Foundation. So all of them had a joint event that they were running. So yeah, I spoke to him, and he's got some exceptionally good out almost, I think, about um, almost from the half line, he scored goals. So that those were like some legendary moments that I remember of his.
oh yeah. I mean, Papi Cisse and Demba Ba, they were really good players for Newcastle. But going back to your point, Amit, every single person that comes to Newcastle, whether you're here as a student, whether you're here for 6 months or 9 months, I think there should be a trigger that they should feel affiliation with the city, with the football club. And all of our team members that come to the restaurant, we always encourage them. We do give them scarves, football tops, talk about the football, talk about the importance, because we want that fan base to grow around the world, and everyone, they should embrace it, because you've got a legitimate reason to be a fan, because you've lived in the city and you've seen the passion for the club, and you're not then just you're not just following a team because it's winning. You're following a team because you lived there and you spent some time there, and you felt an affiliation with a club. So I think it's not like I think to have new fans is a really, really good thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was just interesting because someone who travels around or has stayed in a lot of different places, you'll pick up that affiliation maybe somewhere. You'll pick
Yeah,
up that warmth, the dedicated. Something will just click, won't it? Sometimes.
yeah.
And funny enough, like you said, Jeff, I do, when you speak to people, I think people find that click, that affiliation, that drive. It happens when they reach Newcastle. So a lot of people come here and they go, "Oh, like I don't know how I've just started supporting them and started following." But maybe because it's actually passion. Everyone's passionate about it. Maybe everyone's thinking about it, so it becomes one of those things. But it was just interesting to know.
Absolutely get it, and that's the thing. It's the passion. I mean, I've lost count of the number of people I've seen who got the Newcastle logo tattooed on their calves, like every day. Like I possibly have come across like thousands by now.
Mm.
It's the people that it's as soon as I moved here, I've never seen this sort of dedication and this sort of the fire, the passion in them to follow something so closely. Could be possibly because I live in city center, but even all throughout, wherever I've been, it's just everyone's so devoted to it, is what it is.
Yeah, it's a one club city, isn't it? We just got one club that we support. It's not like think about Liverpool. You've got Liverpool and then you've got Everton. Very the the clubs are very, very close to each other, walking distance. So it's divided, you know. You've got Birmingham, they've got a number of clubs. Aston Villa, Birmingham. Then you got like West Bromwich Albion, very close. Wolverhampton, very, very close. Um, if you've got Glasgow, you've got Celtic, you've got Rangers. Manchester, you got City, you got United. London, they've
Yeah,
got so many clubs there. So Newcastle is a very unique city. And then you got, areas like Ashington and stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got loads of people because Ashington is historically, the famous footballers, Bobby Charlton and Jack Charlton.
Yeah.
They were born in Ashington. There's a banner still at Old Trafford. It says "Born in Ashington" and Bobby Charlton, "Born in Ashington, made in Manchester."
Nice.
So, and then historically also, what's great about this region, there's a lot of Wallsend Boys Club is
Yeah.
is that world renowned for the players that it's produced over the years, from Alan Shearer to Paul Gascoigne, and then in the northeast you had like really world famous players that were born here, like Brian Robson and others born in Chesterley Street. So it's always got like huge affiliation over the years, and it breeds football players and it breeds that passion. So yeah, it's brilliant for us to be a part of that. So Amit, yourself, what's been keeping you busy this week?
oh, there's a load of stuff to be honest, Jeff. Amor's away, so the cats will play as it said. So um, we had a curry club last night in SME, so we had it at home. So what while the parents were away, we played. So we had it here, and that was really good. We met a lot of um, people who would try to set up new businesses or just set up new businesses and on that path. Um, and we just listened and talked through their stories, and it was just great to see some of the passion of, because we always talk about corporate jobs and industry coming here for corporate jobs, and we don't really talk as much about the independents that are trying to set up their own businesses. And so we talk about like Nissan's cutting jobs, and we talk about the impact that has, but actually the impact that these individuals have trying to create independent businesses, and they have the passion for the region. Like a few of them were from Blythe, and oh my god, the passion that they had about Blythe itself. Like we were talking about Newcastle United as a whole, but they were literally really passionate about a small little town centre, and it was great. It was really really good to talk to them, to listen to their stories. To people were sharing ideas, people were passing on like thoughts. Oh, have you thought about this? Oh, where are you? We'll pop down, and it was great. It was really really refreshing just to move away from the corporate world and to talk about independence. So, and it was very much an independent driven event. So it was really good.
Amazing, amazing. And is there any other topics that were discussed in terms of the UK at the moment, the business world, the economy? Was anything did anything come out that our viewers should be made aware of?
Well, we had the XMP there, um, I'll let Kevin talk a little bit about that. And he talked about all the investment that he's brought to the Northeast to Blythe and everything, which was great.
No, definitely. It was very exciting and very refreshing. It's unlike the usual networking events where everyone just breaks out into two or three groups or, one-on-one, and everyone's in their own space. We almost kept this as a round table where everyone sat together. We just go one by one, listen to everyone's ambitions and stories and what they aspire to do. And amongst this, it made it so the model itself, the way we let the flow come through, it was so interactive that everyone got to know about everyone. And if they had questions around, they would just ask them. So, really loved the format. And Amit and I were discussing this could possibly be something we could do at a larger scale as well. Yeah, we did meet quite some interesting people. We met Ian Levy, who's was a part of the Conservative Party. He's out of Blythe and just spoke about a lot of opportunities around funding and the landscape for funding that's being provided by the government. It's phenomenal. It's what will help today's viewers and listeners for today is that it could start off with something as simple as a business plan. It could start off with something as simple as trying and getting direction in what you would aspire to do. So just putting a couple of those details together on a piece of paper and then reaching out for the help. We at SME help businesses across that. There's a lot of council that also supports through a lot of programs, whether it's the Northumberland Small Business Service or the other council-led training programs. A lot of funding opportunities there, a lot of enablement opportunities as well in terms of having the initial infrastructure for the business setup. So that's something we found quite interesting. And just as any other successful networking event would work is when people would start exchanging contacts, out of business opportunities that would come through. So yeah, in a nutshell, was very good for us. We were supposed to wrap up by 8, but finished by about half 8. So we had people there with us for quite some time. That was a good enough sign that people enjoyed it and people wanted to stay for longer.
Do you know the question on funding then? It's always been important. I think many years ago, there was, I think way before, I mean, you might remember Business Link.
Yeah,
Business Link. And we found that that was really, really a good organization where you would be able to access real support and get real funding to genuinely help your business. And since then, I haven't been aware of a funding organization or a scheme where it's been as good as that. So the funding that you mentioned, are they kind of accessible quite easily, or is it just so much paperwork that people just feel that actually it's not even worth the pain to try and go through to try and get some funding, and that's usually a deterrent on occasions. So have you managed to explore these organizations that are looking to provide funding, and how good are they genuinely to help support businesses, and how easy is it to access that funding?
No, absolutely. And I can go back to my own experience from almost about 1.5 years from now when I had a business with my previous business partner. We would spend almost about a month filling out the applications, going through said organizations to apply for that funding. And they would say we've got about 1.5 million, 5 million available in investment and funding. But you never get to see that. You never really know how long those timelines could be, whether it's actually going to come through to you or if any of that's accessible. So that process became very tedious, and unfortunately, it still is to quite an extent. But a lot of the programs that are run by the council, NSPS is one of them, where it's almost in a format where we have partnered with them to train them, and these grant opportunities or these funding opportunities are within a set cohort. So the opportunities for them to get that is very high. It just becomes a matter of them being eligible for it. So yes, it does take about a week or 10 days for them to get their business plan together from scratch, apply and have the results through, but definitely much more accessible through programs is what I would say.
Good. And hopefully, the businesses within the SME and those businesses through ABC, hopefully they're aware of that and they can access it with that support. And the right funding, the right support in the embryonic stage of a business is so valuable. So valuable. And hopefully, if you can get access to it, then brilliant. I'm sure we can see a lot of businesses benefit from it. And that's the ultimate reason for the funding.
It's also getting advice and support as well. Sometimes, yes, funding becomes a big thing because without the funding, you might not be able to start the business off. But what I find is that actually people go off on their own little trajectory. They get the funding or they've got their own and they self-fund it. And actually what they haven't done is went out and did their market research. They haven't spoken to people. They haven't got advice. They haven't tested the waters. Ultimately then to create something that actually maybe is not really needed or something that maybe could have been slightly changed in concept in order to do it. Like we've been talking about for a number of weeks now running this Awesome Women campaign to become awesome. And I've been doing one-to-ones this week where we're sitting down with them and we're talking through their individual businesses and we're honing in on capturing like what is their product, who is their customer. And it's like, oh well, I'm a restaurant, I'm open to everybody. Yes, but you're not open to everybody because if you're an Indian restaurant, you're open to those that like Indian cuisine in the first instance. If you're in the quayside, you're them who are looking for either an evening out or visiting the city centre. You're also, depending on your price point, you're looking at a particular segment of the market who are maybe out for celebrations or want to come out for a nice meal as opposed to going to a standard restaurant that might be slightly cheaper or whatever. So you've got a market and you need to work out exactly what your market is and who you're targeting to work out if there's ultimately a business case there for you as an organisation, as a business. And so we've been doing that with a lot of these awesome women in terms of just getting them to think about exactly who their target audience is. One lady wants to make cakes and she's like, oh, well, anybody who wants to buy a cake. Well, actually, no, because that's a lot of people. But what you're doing is you're targeting probably mainly the West End because that's where you are and that's where your contacts are. You're also probably targeting your people that know you or know of you through someone else or friends or whatever. So you're now looking at possibly the Pakistani community within the West End. So it's just trying to hone in on the details so that when they're setting up the business, when they're putting their money into it, when they're trying to market it, they actually know where they're going and who they're trying to target rather than just be a bit generic. And I think that wasn't there maybe in the past. I think a lot of information like that or a lot of support and advice wasn't there. I think people, if you said you were setting up your own business, we talked about this last week, they'd either say, oh, it's either sit there and put you off and go, oh, it's really hard, you don't want to do that, you probably just want to get a job, son, do you know what I mean? Or be a waiter or be a chef, do you know what I mean? That's probably the easiest. Why would you want to open a restaurant? They'd go down that route, or they'd sit there and go, oh yeah, crack on, but not give you any help or advice. Whereas now, I think there's a lot of organisations, there's a lot of people that want to pay it forward, that maybe have had advice in the past and want to pass that on to someone else and help someone else. So I think it's really good in terms of looking at these women, in terms of what they're doing, how they're doing it, and the passion that they've got for it as well. I was really, really excited to see the passion. So that's been really good this week. A few one-to-ones with them. We've been trying to finish finalising the venue and stuff for the awards. So we had a great session with Gosford Park, now known as the home of the awards, the ABC
Yep.
Awards, because
Brilliant venue.
it's a beautiful venue, really easy to get to, good parking.
Yep.
So sat down with Jane at the venue and Andrea to talk about the awards, but also about what else we can do at the venue as well. So they're really excited about getting involved more with ABC. They've obviously been a partner of ours since COVID anyway, or since 2021 when we did the first set of awards there. And so that's been really exciting. There's a lot of follow up in that session with them about working with other organisations that they work with, and getting them involved in the awards and in the roundtables and the IBD project and campaign that we're doing as well. So that was really interesting, really good.
Brilliant, good. And can we talk a little bit about politics? Only because I think it has such an important, it's so significant on all businesses. So obviously we have our Prime Minister who's in America at the moment, and there's a lot of discussions about trade deals and tariffs, and obviously you got the whole issue on Ukraine and the issue with Trump and the split with the EU and A, B, C, and D. I'm presuming that in the dinner curry club yesterday, did anybody look into any of that? Was there any talks about the impact of tariffs from America coming into the UK and the impact that could have on the day-to-day running costs of businesses, whether it be tariffs on the technology that they provide us, or obviously there's a huge trading partner, and wines, food, agriculture, A, B, C, and D.
Surprisingly,
didn't Trump say yesterday or the day before that he wasn't planning on putting tariffs on the UK anyway?
Well, either way, I think they were saying that they are going to, and then then obviously since the Prime Minister's gone down, I don't know if their position has changed, but I think ultimately there was a big, massive disparity in their approach to how to deal with the Ukrainian issue, where Trump being very much for stopping the war and kind of having peace talks with Russia directly, and Keir Starmer, along with the EU, wanting to continue and have boots on the ground in A, B, C, and D. And we've always maintained, Amar and myself, we said that at the end of the day, where's the diplomacy from the EU in terms of why did no one want to go and approach the Russians and sit and talk whilst Trump's come into power, and that's the first thing that he's done, and everyone's got there's like uproar about it, which I don't understand, because if you're one of the most powerful nations on the planet, and similarly with Russia, because of all the nuclear weapons that they have, two powerful countries sitting down around the table to resolve a conflict, I thought that would be kind of acknowledged by everybody and say, oh, well, you're doing the right thing. But the EU's position seems to be quite the opposite, which didn't make sense. And all we want from a business perspective is everything to be settled and the economy to be stable, the world economy, because these days the world is so interconnected via globalization, whether it be energy or whether it be people's tastes, people's preferences, or people's social media, and everything has made the world so much smaller. So lifestyles and everything, so society changes kind of universally quite quickly around the world. So when there's instability, it has such a big impact on us. So from our perspective, business perspective, we just want there to be stability and everyone to get along, and diplomats to do their diplomacy, which is to maybe reduce conflicts, not kind of keep them going. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I think yesterday, Trump and Starmer have said that there's probably likely to be no taxes against the UK in terms of but Europe will still have it. So I think that's good news for us because if we're in Europe and we don't have those tariffs against us, then it makes us a slightly more desirable country to be maybe setting up and doing stuff if you have those links with the US and some of your stuff is coming or going to the US.
Yeah. Did you hear about the other thing, which I thought was quite interesting? If you give $5 million, you can buy US citizenship. Did you hear about that from Trump?
No,
Yeah.
no, but to be honest, 5 million is not that much, is it really?
5 million quid, and then you get US citizenship, which well, would you pay 5 million quid though for US? Would you not? Should it not be the case that if you invest £5 million in something, where that business that you've invested in is yours, then you get citizenship via that particular route, as opposed to just government just taking it. I mean, would many people do that? I don't know. You got to be pretty well off just to throw £5 million away.
Yeah, but surely it's got to be those that are like I think for those that are rich that have got money and whatnot, I don't think £5 million is that much to a degree. It is to us, but I think the rich and the ones that are maybe in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, because there's obviously a massive disparity between the richest and the poorest there.
Yeah.
So the richest there will have 5 million easily. And if that means they can go to America with a gold card and live a life there without any hassle, and they can just emigrate straight away, and they've got that security there.
Yeah.
I think you'll find that like you'll get 100, 200 people doing it, I think.
Well,
that's a lot of money raised, isn't it?
Talking about if I get 10 million people doing that, right? That's 50 trillion dollars. Wipes out our national debt and all of those things, which was quite interesting because, again, and he feels that America is one of the most desirable countries, but I think Britain is still up there as one of the most desirable countries in the world. And so many people have obviously got ambitions of coming into the UK. Laws are obviously slightly different because it keeps on changing, but it's still a 5 year. If you are in the UK, it takes about 5 years to get that permanent residency if you're on a work permit, and it's not going to quite cost you quite 5 million quid, but it'll cost you something on the way through that journey. But interestingly, though. I mean, they do know what Trump is a businessman, but I would have thought if it was 5 million in investment, as opposed to just 5 million raw cash, because they can just go in and they might not be doing anything to generate wealth because they've just got that ticket in, haven't they? Whereas if it was an investment, then at least you know that investment is going to have ongoing kind of they'll pay taxes, they'll create jobs in A, B, C, and D. So it'd be interesting to know what the smaller details are and whether other countries such as Britain would follow suit on those lines. I don't know if they will or not.
What he said that he thinks that companies will use the Golden Visa program to hire non-citizens to come and work in the US. So he thinks it's to attract the top talent to come and work in the US at that price. It works out at 3.9 million pounds.
Okay.
And he thinks it's gonna go like crazy. He literally thinks it's gonna go like crazy.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to get the statistics on that in a year's time or so.
Yeah. Funny enough, actually, there's other companies that do that, don't they? Countries that do the whole investment and get citizenship. Obviously, Portugal, tax haven. Everyone knows that Portugal's the weather's amazing there anyway, but actually tax benefits wise, it's great. They've got a program as well which gives you a golden visa if you invest. I think it's 500,000 or maybe 250,000 in Portugal, and that can be also just to buy property. So it doesn't necessarily have to be invest as in.
Yeah, I think that's a more conventional route, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have taken advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense. Something a bit more local, so let's not go too global. Have you heard that Newcastle City Council's looking to crack down on streets in the West End and make it resident only?
I think all that stuff I'm deeply against and opposed to, and I think it's an absolute joke. What they've done around the country, they've just ruined streets, ruined roads, and it's just a joke. I think everyone should be out there up in arms and just make sure that the council can't go.
I knew that would get you started.
Hmm?
I knew it. I knew that would get your little.
Yeah, of course, it's just ridiculous, man. It's just not necessary, and I've seen it with my own eyes what they've done, and it's just pathetic. Council can't just go and do what they want to do because they don't live in the West End. They don't have a business on Grey Street when you destroy the street. It's like that. There's a old shop on Grey Street, if you recall, towards the bottom, opposite Tandoori Nights, Bangham and something. They used to sell like fishing stuff and cold weather stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Been there since 1925 or something, or 35. After 90 years, they pretty closed shop, and they had to leave because the city council destroyed their business by people. They used to just come and park on Grey Street in the daytime, and they used to go into the shop, pick some items up, and they used to put them in the boot and drive off. And they pedestrianized it wholly unnecessarily. And every single business that I know have been disadvantaged by a city council's decision.
Do you know, I'm not against pedestrianising areas and streets, because if you look at Northumberland Street now,
brilliant.
We used to be able to drive down Northumberland Street, past Bennett's and Marks and Spencer's. I remember that as a kid. Perfect. You would drive down. I get that.
100% with you on that. 100%.
But you need to have great transport links, public transport solutions to get people into the areas that you're now pedestrianising.
Yeah, of course.
And town is a nightmare to get to.
It's horrible, man. It's absolutely horrible. There's people that work in Pannies on Highbridge, above Pannies, and they can't even bring their car. They're like looking to move offices, and it's just causing chaos. But anyway, Amit, can you share a little bit more information on what the council's ideas and plans are for the West End?
What I don't understand is because it was released a couple of days ago about this whole West End and resident only. What I don't understand is what they think the issue is. Like, I totally get if you're looking at a particular area, like maybe near the airport or near the train station where people are parking and riding or whatever, and they're doing that kind of stuff. But I don't understand why they feel like there's an issue in the West End and Arthur's Hill in terms of resident-only parking. Like, who's actually coming into Fenham or Arthur's Hill and just leaving their car outside a random person's house?
To be honest, in Arthur's Hill, if you think about Arthur's Hill, right, that's quite close to the city centre. It's
still not close enough to be. Yeah,
but if you think
walking distance,
where Murray House is and that Shell petrol station is and stuff, and you've got the Earl of Pitt Street and all of that stuff, that's still classed as Arthur's Hill. So I can understand where people might want to bring their cars and park it there and then go into work in the city centre. But I mean, but they'll use it as a way to get in, to then be able to put tickets on, and they're probably looking at it from a revenue stream perspective. How can we give more tickets, make more revenue, make life more difficult for the people living in this area? That's how I look at it. And I don't see what they're going to gain by it apart from revenue.
Well, I think it's to help it's clearly there to help the residents, isn't it? I think who've complained. who clearly have an issue with people parking. And like you say, if I look at the streets in terms of what's mentioned, in terms of Phillip Place and Monday Place, they're all the ones at the bottom of Standard Street, aren't they? Closer to St James's Park and the city centre. So you're probably right in terms of people are parking there to walk into town. But they're only parking there to walk into town because there's no other suitable solutions for them to park and ride or
affordability as well.
Yeah.
Affordability of going and parking in town, the cost of it. They've just over the last few years, all they've done is the prices keep on creeping up, and it's not even the prices creeping up, right? I thought remember in the past, the parking was from 9 a.m. till 5:30, right? The 9 a.m.s become like 7:30, and the 5:30s become like 7 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
So what's that all about? They just keep on changing it, and you might as well make it so you've got free parking from 7 o'clock basically. But if you did stay overnight at a hotel or something, you have to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning to top up your parking. I mean, but your working day doesn't start until 9, and it supposedly finishes at 5:30, and that's what the original times were based on. So the city council have put ambiguous signs, and they keep on tweaking, and they're making millions of pounds out of the public, and that's not what the city council's remit should be. They're supposed to be working in the best interest of the public, not trying to find ways of putting us out of pocket.
And it's worse now because, well, worse or better, I don't know. You've got all these apps. So you've got Park and Go and Ringo, and actually you go, like you say, you park, and a lot of them don't stop at 7 o'clock anymore. A lot of them continue on a lot later.
Yeah.
And you get your reminder on the phone, and you're like, oh, I'll just top it up. And before you know it, you've spent another 10 quid on parking on top of whatever you went into town to do. Whereas in the past, when you had to put a paper ticket, you're like, oh, it finishes at 8 o'clock. You would do everything you could to get out and leave 8 o'clock. Now you're like, oh, I'll just top it up another hour. Oh, it's only £1.85.
Yeah, I just feel it's unfair. It's really unfair what's going on with all of that stuff, and it's just the cost that everyone has to pay for in a climate where everything is so tight for everybody. Things are so expensive, and it just doesn't help the council making decisions which just really hit you where it hurts.
But that parking permit is just another thing, though, isn't it? Because they're doing the whole landlord licensing. To become a landlord in certain areas of Newcastle, including the West End, you need to have a license, and I think they're just making it harder for individuals and organisations to run businesses.
Yeah, and that must come with they must have a strategy for that. It's not just on the hoof, or let's just do this. Someone at the top has got a very, very clear strategy of what and they haven't shared what the strategy is with us, because again, the city councils they're supposed to work for the people. You know, they've got the public life. They had I can't remember the values from the top of my head, but when you are a public servant, you know, you're supposed to be selfless. You're supposed to be thinking about the people in A, B, C, and D. I know that's certainly not the case. So it is really worrying, everything that's happening. And it's if you go to London ever, you got all of these 20-mile zones all over the place, and every single black cab driver that you speak to, they're just horrified about what they've done in London. Wholly unnecessary. Nothing wrong with the old system. Just ways of making the public's life so difficult, and it's just horrible. And that's creeping into Newcastle, which I'm so gutted about.
When I was in London last year, I was in London, and I got the train down, and the train was delayed, so I got into London slightly later, and I needed to get from A to B, and I thought, do you know what? I'll just jump in a taxi. Like, work's going to pay for it. I need to get there. I'll jump in a taxi. Oh my God, worst decision ever.
Yeah.
Literally, I was sat in a taxi, just driving around London. It took me 45 minutes to get where I needed to get, and it only would have been a 20-minute tube ride.
But Amit, in the past though, that's the norm though, isn't it? The perception, the expectation is what it should be that, yeah, I'm going to jump on a taxi and I'm going to get there in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, so if you go and speak to Sadiq Khan and say, hey, mate, because of you've ruined London, they're going to come up with some bump and they're going to read a script and tell you how fantastic everything is after the changes, which is just total nonsense. And there's not one person that's going to put their hands up and say, actually, yeah, I'm really sorry that I have caused, Amit, I apologize because your journey is my fault. It should have taken, instead of 45 minutes, you should have been there in 10. Because of all the changes that I've made, I'm responsible for the journey time. And they give zero emissions. They talk about zero emissions. Yeah. How is that going to help zero emissions by destroying the roads where your journey, instead of 10 minutes, you've got another 40 minutes where there's fumes going into the environment?
Oh, honestly. And this is a bit with politics, isn't it? It's where they can come with a manifesto and say that they can promise you 10 things, 20 things that they're going to do, and they don't do it. They then implement and put changes in, and actually they don't ever apologise for anything that's gone wrong. They sit there and justify it until they're blue in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And they're supposed to be accountable, aren't they?
Well, no, they're not accountable, are they?
Every other position is accountable.
So they're responsible, but there's no accountability. There's just the responsibility. Oh, this was my job to do this. I did that. Yeah. And then 5 years later, someone else is elected, and there you go. Oh, irrelevant of what great stuff the other person's done, everything's rubbish, everything's crap. And again, with the next person that comes in, whoever was previous to them was rubbish. And
yeah.
And I think that's where politics probably needs a bit of an overhaul and a bit of a change.
Yeah, certainly needs a shake-up. I think we need our Trump, don't we? Good or bad, he's shaking the world, isn't he? Good or bad. I'm not saying he's ideal, but I'm just saying that you need someone to shake things up a bit. I don't
know if we need a Trump.
I think or even Andrew Tate. He's opened a political organization, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's called Twitter. Twitter and everything. It's almost like Elon and Trump have like built this. See, they understand. They understand that the world's on social media. They understand that the world's driven by impact on social media. Whatever you show people on their phone is what influences them. Or if they don't get influenced, they know that, if someone sees something continuously, that's going to build an opinion for them. So that's just changed everything as it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, amazing chat. We've got 50 seconds left today, which has gone really quick because we haven't even talked about the fact that Nissan's doing some stuff again. They've been in the news this week, and there's been Sergio, which is student accommodation. They've been doing stuff. Just going to have to worry about that next week, or people are going to have to go online and read about it.
Yes, I think so. I think there's always great things happening locally, which we're all always very, very happy and proud of, and share as much as we can. And yeah, hopefully we'll touch more on local developments next week.
Brilliant. And
excellent.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Good to see you all. We'll hopefully catch up with the next week. Maybe Amit, you got to still both of you drop in next week whilst if I'm always here. But it'd be nice to have all of us doing something next week as well. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Good.
See you later.